During the existence of the USSR, the death penalty was rarely used against women. Such a sentence was carried out only 3 times. The last one to be executed was serial killer and poisoner Tamara Ivanyutina. On March 27, 1987, a terrible tragedy occurred at one of the schools in Kyiv. 14 people were brought to the hospital by ambulances, 3 children and 11 staff members. All the victims had identical symptoms: weakness, leg pain, and nausea. At first, doctors thought it was the flu, but standard treatment was ineffective. The fever did not subside, and the chills persisted. One of the patients had an unusual reaction to the medications. He completely lost his hair. While doctors were searching for answers, a terrible event occurred. 4 patients died one after another in the intensive care unit. 3 school children and 1 teacher passed away. The remaining 10 people fought for their lives in the ICU. These deaths shocked the entire city. The prosecutor's office immediately took over the case. Doctors, urgently called to a meeting, discussed an unknown deadly virus for a long time, until one of them suggested that the people might have been poisoned by strong toxic substances through food or water somewhere in the school. At first, this theory was not even considered. How could such a thing happen in a Soviet school? However, after interviewing the surviving victims, it became clear that they all felt unwell immediately after lunch in the school cafeteria. All the victims had eaten chicken soup and chicken liver for lunch. The police were promptly dispatched to the school for an investigation. The police decided to search the cafeteria and talk to school staff. It was necessary to find out the reason for the tragedy. First and foremost, investigators wanted to speak with the dietitian. The person in this position was responsible for monitoring the quality of food in the school cafeteria. However, it turned out that the woman who held this position had recently died from the same symptoms as the 4 people in the hospital. It was this strange coincidence that began to unravel a web of terrible crimes. Investigators learned that when dietitian Natalia Kukharenko was hospitalized, she was suffering from leg pain. Doctors diagnosed her with heart failure. Natalia Kukharenko had never complained about her health, but she died in the hospital just a few days after being admitted. Detectives started to gather information from hospitals and discovered that several other people from the school had sought help for similar symptoms. 2 students and a couple of teachers. One teacher reported that he had experienced an unusual condition where all his hair fell out within a week. Thus, the incredible theory that someone was deliberately poisoning people in the school cafeteria became a working hypothesis. The investigators decided to exhume the body of the school dietitian, Natalia Kukharenko. The examination confirmed that all the deaths were not accidental. Experts found a solution of thallium, a highly toxic substance, in Natalia Kukharenko's body. The police conducted a search of all the rooms in the school, paying particular attention to the cafeteria, containers for grains, dishes, and pots. However, the search was fruitless. Nothing raised suspicion, except for the strange behavior of the dishwasher. One of the investigators recalled, "The dishwasher, Ivanyutina, followed me everywhere. She had an unfriendly, harsh look. She watched every move I made." The police began to review the personal files of all cafeteria staff. Once again, the dishwasher, Tamara Ivanyutina, drew attention. It was discovered that she had a criminal record, which she had concealed. The investigators focused particularly on Tamara Ivanyutina's background and uncovered facts that made her the primary suspect. It turned out that Tamara Ivanyutina had a long history of mysterious deaths among her acquaintances and close relatives. First, her first husband died. Then, her second husband's parents complained of strange symptoms before they also passed away. Her second husband himself fell ill with an unknown and incurable disease. He had been bedridden for a long time, unable to get up, suffering from symptoms that were already familiar to the investigators: joint pain, severe weakness, dizziness, and hair loss. The police quickly obtained a search warrant for Tamara Ivanyutina's home. After thoroughly searching the house, one of the investigators asked her to open a small cabinet standing by the window. At this moment, the owner's contemptuous look turned nervous, and she said, "It's just a sewing machine. Do you want to go through it too?" "If necessary, we will," replied the investigator. Tamara Ivanyutina threw the keys on the floor and hissed, "Open it, tailors." Among the threads and needles, a police officer found a bottle of machine oil. The bottle was unusually heavy. Laboratory analysis revealed that it contained an aqueous solution of thallium. Tamara Ivanyutina confessed to her crimes. But how did an ordinary woman become a serial killer? And most importantly, why? To answer this question, it was necessary to thoroughly study Tamara Ivanyutina's life. Tamara was born into a large family. Her parents, Anton and Maria Maslenko, lived modestly, like many simple workers of that time. The family resided in a communal apartment, meaning they had one room in the apartment, while other rooms were occupied by different families. Like other residents of such apartments, her parents did not differ from their quarrelsome neighbors, except for one thing. They resolved domestic disputes not with arguments on the shared kitchen, but by lacing the food of their neighbors with poison. The primary measure of success for this married couple was wealth, obtained by any means necessary. They taught their children, including Tamara, that instead of writing complaints, they should befriend everyone and treat them to food. But when it came to particularly troublesome individuals, they could add poison to the food. Even as a child, little Tamara, along with her brothers and sisters, knew that their parents had fatally poisoned a neighbor who drank heavily, caused disturbances at night, and disturbed everyone's sleep. Another neighbor in their communal apartment, Maria Maslenko's mother, was poisoned to death by her pie because she had complained about the unclean toilet. The envious and extremely sensitive couple, the Maslenkos, did not hide their terrible crimes from their children. They even spoke of them with pride and boasted about their ingenuity. Tamara grew up as a greedy and very selfish young woman. She dreamed of marrying well and starting a large pig farming business. To fulfill her life plan, Tamara met an unattractive but promising long-haul truck driver at the time. As part of her dowry, Tamara took thallium from home, knowing that she would not be living with her husband for long. And that's exactly what happened. From the first day of their married life, she began adding poison to her young husband's food. Thallium did not fail her. First, her husband fell severely ill, and then he died. leaving Tamara a 2-bedroom apartment as his inheritance. The second time, the poisoner married Oleg Ivanyutin. In this marriage, Tamara was greatly hindered by her new husband's parents. Solving this problem was no trouble at all. Her in-laws quickly died from heart failure, just like her first husband. Soon, the devoted daughter-in-law was celebrating moving into the house that had belonged to her in-laws, that is, the parents of her new husband. It was there that she realized her long-held dream. She built a pig farm. One witness recounted that she suspected Tamara Ivanyutina of being involved in black magic. She often saw Tamara performing strange rituals. Glasses filled with piglet blood were placed in the corners of the room, and threads were laid at the threshold. Tamara Ivanyutina's envy did not bypass her neighbor. In her carelessness, she bragged to her friend about her new wardrobe. After that, Tamara invited her to dinner. However, the boiled egg on the table began to turn black right before her eyes. The woman was frightened by her guess. Tamara is a real witch. Fortunately, this story did not end fatally for her, and the magically darkened egg had a logical explanation. The white turned black due to a reaction with thallium. The farm was thriving. But for the greedy Tamara, buying feed for the pigs seemed like sheer madness. So she got a job at the cafeteria in Kyiv school number 16. She would carry food leftovers from the cafeteria in buckets. Tamara was constantly in conflict with the dietitian, Natalia Kuharenko. And as usual, she resolved her problem in her customary way. The crime went unpunished. After that, she sent another school employee to the afterlife, Noga, the cafeteria manager. The poisoned leftovers from lunch were intended for him on March 27, 1987. But by a coincidental turn of events, they were eaten by late arriving guests, school children and school staff. In total, 14 people consumed the food. 4 of them died. In all, the Kyiv killer was responsible for 20 poisonings, 9 of which were fatal. In the Kyiv school, the dietitian Natalia Kuharenko and the cafeteria manager Noga suffered because they controlled the inventory of food products. Tamara Ivanyutina poisoned the school children to create distrust in the school cafeteria, which would lead to an increase in leftover food that she could take home and feed to her pigs. In her future plans, she envisioned using the profits from selling the meat to buy a black Volga car. Tamara's parents and her sister Nina, who, following family tradition, also poisoned her husband, were also sent to trial. Soon after the arrest of the Kyiv poisoner, a laboratory assistant from a geological expedition was found. She had given Tamara Ivanyutina and her parents about half a liter of thallium solution 11 years earlier. According to the laboratory assistant, the Maslenko family members approached her 9 times, explaining that they needed poison for rats. During the investigation, it was revealed that Tamara Ivanyutina's sister, Nina, also actively used poison. With the help of thallium, she sent her 69-year-old husband to his death, who left her an apartment in central Kyiv. Around the same time that Tamara Ivanyutina was arrested, her mother attempted to kill her neighbor. She envied her increased disability pension. There were 40 episodes in the family's criminal case, 13 of which were fatal. Anton and Maria Maslenko, Tamara's parents, received 13 and 10 years respectively, while Nina was sentenced to 15 years. and Tamara Ivanyutina became the last woman in the USSR sentenced to death, as she had the largest number of murders and attempted murders to her credit. When Tamara Ivanyutina was given her last word at the trial, she looked into the eyes of the victims' relatives and said that she had no intention of asking for forgiveness. "I wasn't raised that way." Tamara Ivanyutina's parents died in prison. Her sister Nina served part of her sentence and was released into a new country, the independent Ukraine. The further fate of the maniac's sister remains unknown. Doctors conducted a forensic psychiatric examination of Tamara Ivanyutina and found her to be sane, despite her unhealthy obsession with pigs. The court handed down the maximum sentence: execution by firing squad. Tamara Ivanyutina was executed at the end of 1987 in one of the pre-trial detention centers in Kyiv. She became the last woman to be sentenced to death in the Soviet Union. Thank you for watching the video to the end. To support the channel, please like and subscribe.